Hi guys, welcome back to my channel, Cannock Chase Paranormal Investigations. I've only recently changed the name, so it still takes me a little bit of getting used to actually say it. So I wanted to kind of introduce my team, which is Cannock Chase Paranormal Investigations, by way of maybe telling you about the first couple of times I visited Cannock Chase. And so this video is just essentially a few pictures to kind of essentially demonstrate when I visited the chase for the first time, and under what kind of circumstances as well. So my interest in the paranormal came from somebody who was visiting our university, and he kind of suggested that because I had a bit of a background in psychology, that I might be interested to come along. It might be something that's of interest to me. And I think we spoke about the paranormal a little bit, and so that's how my interest in the paranormal started. And it started with a place called Drakelow Tunnels. So essentially the only equipment I had at the time was a torch, which even then I didn't have a torch. I purchased one a couple of days before the actual investigation, and I really enjoyed the investigation. It was very, very interesting, and that kind of sparked my desire to want to do further investigations. So then about a year or so down the line, I got invited on one October evening to visit Cannock Chase, and there was three of us, and it was at the German Cemetery. And this was the beginning. This was about October 2015. So there's a big kind of gap between that date and when I officially started my Facebook group, which is Cannock Chase Paranormal Investigations. I do have a sister group to that as well, which is Cannock Chase Paranormal Mysteries. It's all a bit of a mouthful. But yeah, I started my group in I think it was about March 2019, and that was following a further visit to an area of Cannock Chase called Milford Common. So my team has actually been going, I suppose officially, since March 2019. We investigated all the way through till 2020. I think our last investigation before lockdown was in January 2020, and then there was like a bit of a big gap, and we reunited in July for a further two investigations, and then another investigation in September, and then of course we kind of went into another lockdown, so which was, I think, was November. And when Christmas came, we didn't really know what to do, and so there's been a bit of a gap, and our first return back to Cannock Chase was in April. And now we're in May. So yeah, essentially that's the history of our team. I will probably upload videos and a little bit of a synopsis of previous investigations to give you an idea of the sorts of things that we're kind of discovering, and the sorts of maybe hints at theories of things that are going on there. All in all, I guess, including solo investigations that I've done. I only do solo investigations during the day because Cannock Chase can be quite perilous underfoot at night, and it only takes a broken ankle to leave you stranded there with no support. So yeah, of course, it'd be crazy for me to go there on my own at night, and also I would probably shit my pants. So yeah, we've done probably about 19, 20 investigations, including all the little daytime ones that I've done on my own and with a friend. So we've achieved quite a lot, but it really all started in October 2015. I think it was 2015. I'm pretty sure it was. Yeah, I think it's 2015. So yeah, I'm going to just put up some images to give you an idea of the general area I went to. The area, we generically know it as the German Cemetery. It's the easiest way to describe the area. So yeah, let's just see if I can pull this up. Okay, so this is an overview of the Commonwealth Cemetery, which is the first cemetery that you get to Cannock Chase. Then you go down this like road. There's a bit of a gate there, and you travel down to an area just around about here, and that's where the German cemetery is, which is just outside. So this is an overview of the area, and I've circled the German cemetery there, and the Commonwealth Cemetery is obviously there. And then what we've normally done in the past is we've walked down this path, and then we've arced around this small group of trees and onto onto these woods here. We've walked down here in the past. There is like a little path that leads you up. So actually, if you carry on down past here and generally kind of follow the path, you'll end up at Milford Common, or you'll end up at an area which is adjacent to the stepping stones, and it's a really interesting corridor of forest that we've had quite a lot of activity down there. I think probably the most active place I've been is around here. The activity seems to be incredible. There are other areas of interest around this kind of area, but at the moment I'm not really at liberty to say, because that is a discovery of another member of my team, and I feel that you have to have some intellectual rights over what you discover and what it might mean later on. And because we haven't actually researched this particular area, it's really we need to thoroughly explore it in order to maybe understand what's going on there. We parked up at the Commonwealth Cemetery, and the only problem with parking at this area is it's a little vulnerable to lots of other people parking there for maybe more sort of dodgy reasons. Not necessarily kind of theft of your car or anything, but there's a few extracurricular activities that tend to take place at these random spots. So yeah, we parked there, we walked down to the German Cemetery, we carried on past the German Cemetery, and we walked to an area just around about here. We went up the hill bit, came down, and when we came back we sort of circled round these woods before we dropped back onto where the cars parked. But the interesting thing about this experience was I'd always assumed that Cannock Chase was very much like Sutton Park. Well, there's two big differences. One is like the area of Cannock Chase, which I think is about 26 square kilometres, and I think Sutton Park is about 9 square kilometres. Although Cannock Chase is interspersed with lots of roads, whereas Sutton Park is just one kind of blob of land. And the other interesting thing about Sutton Park and Cannock Chase is that Cannock Chase has 2 ley lines going past them, and Sutton Park has a ley line going straight through it. And that's another video which I want to kind of talk about. I'll talk about that at a later date, because that's of an interest to me, and I really want to get into talking about ley lines and things like that. Not that I know very much about ley lines, but it's an ongoing process of learning about them. And coincidentally, there's a lot of coincidence attached to why I want to do a separate video of that. But this was a very dark and kind of wet, damp sort of October night, and we really kind of got the feeling that as we left this particular path that takes you up into the forest, when we came down, it just felt incredibly eerie that we were sort of being maybe followed. And indeed, when we entered the woods around the German cemetery, I remember I was walking backwards, and I don't know why, it was just instinctive to walk backwards through this part of forest, because I felt like we as a group of 3 people were being stalked by an animal. Um, Perhaps an animal, perhaps it was something else, but you just have that innate feeling that as human beings living in a modern world, I don't think we necessarily engage with those feelings as often as we should, because we rely on technology and a very sort of two-dimensional idea of what the world is about. So we don't really kind of need these feelings to get through our day. I think if we were more intuitive, then we could probably avoid, lots of different, I suppose, dangerous aspects or dangerous occurrences that happen throughout our lives. But yeah, anyway, I was walking backwards because I kind of felt we were being followed. And that was it was a very eerie night. And like I said, my comparison with Sutton Park was that, well, Cannock Chase is just a larger version of Sutton Park. Now, I've been in Sutton Park many, many times since I was young, and there's definitely something supernatural there, and it doesn't feel like it could maybe hurt you, but I've had various experiences there, and it always kind of felt a little bit supernatural. So I thought that, just a bigger place, the feeling's going to be the same, that you're dealing with just, if anything, it's just going to be supernatural. I had no ideas about Cannock Chase, but I thought it would be exactly the same feeling as Sutton Park. And do you know what? It actually wasn't when we got there on that night. I noticed it was incredible that all of a sudden all the wildlife stopped. And say wildlife, you've got owls, you've got bats, you've got other animals, and it just seemed to go really, really still without warning. And it actually felt that it wasn't necessarily altogether supernatural, but it felt like there was something physical following us rather than just, the spirit of somebody or a demonic spirit or just anything, any supernatural thing. It actually felt like there was something physical about to step out. And I've never really had that experience. So, of course, I went away from this night thinking, you know what, we really, really got to get back there. Really got to get back to this place. So the next time we visited, I think it was about a week later. The first time we went was on a Tuesday, and I think we returned on I think it was maybe a Thursday. It might have been a Saturday, but I'm pretty sure it was a weekday anyway. So we returned, and this time there was 5 of us, and we were to meet members of another group called the Stourbridge Independent Paranormal Society, SIPS for short, and they were out doing something else at that time. So it was just the 5 of us, the 3 original people that came, and 2 friends of one of them. And we did the same thing. We travelled down to this route, this path, and we walked up the hill. While we were up there, nothing really kind of happened, but then all of a sudden it kind of felt a little bit eerie. It's funny actually because we were joking about Pigman, and actually I'm just going to fast forward this and see if I can find the actual picture of. So this is a more detailed picture of where we went, and the funny thing was we went up this hill and we were kind of joking about Pigman, about how it's just an urban myth, and at that moment we heard like a snorting noise, and it was really odd. And at first we laughed because we were literally just talking about how Pigman was a load of old rubbish. But then we heard a snorting noise, and it appeared to be coming from here. So we were about here, and the noise was coming from about here. So as we came down the hill, it seemed to kind of flank us. Now, this might just look like grassy area, but it's actually quite thick brush, and it goes down into a dip, and whatever it was, it kind of came out to the bottom before we had, so we could actually just hear something over here as we came out. And we walked back to this point just here, and we could sort of still hear it, and we decided to sort of beat a retreat back to the car park. We were due to meet some others, so here's just another view of where we went. It's a slightly more elevated view, so you can sort of see you're going up into the forest, and the forest is quite dense. Sometimes these pictures don't do it justice, and whatever it was, it came from there. It followed us out and down, and it came round, and it was in a load of brush here. This looks actually really, really flat, like it's flat grass, but in reality it's this really, really thick brush. I'm not sure how old this picture is. Not all of the pictures on Google Earth show a correct amount of bushes and trees and stuff, especially when it comes to Cannock Chase. So this is another picture of the path that goes up. This is getting towards where it's just about to level out. Kind of quite steep as it goes down. So we got back up to the car park, and indeed we bumped into the other team, which I think there was about 4 or 5 of them, maybe 4 or 5 of them, and we really excitedly told them the story about what was going on, about what we'd heard, and we told them the joke about how we thought it was Pigman, and it wasn't actually Pigman. And we thought we were being stalked by something. So our theories at the time was that this was a wild boar. But having somebody with us who worked with one of the large safari parks, she said if it was a wild boar, there's a pretty good chance it would have charged us. If it was a pig, it would have probably moved away. But a wild boar may have charged us, and it certainly wouldn't have flanked us and come down behind us as if it was waiting for us. So we told them this story, and to be honest with you, we got back down to this area just here. We didn't expect to hear anything, and weirdly enough, I think one of the guys that was with us, he had his camera. He had a really good sort of rig, and pretty much everything with his camera went wrong, I believe. He wasn't able to kind of capture audio or video for some reason I can't explain. This was before I ever had any equipment. I really just had my torch, which in a way is great because you get to really experience everything that's around you with just a torch, and you're not trying to focus on which buttons to press. So yeah, we gathered around this spot here, and as we were talking, we suddenly heard the snorting again, and it's like it looks like a grunt snorting, and we were like, can everybody hear that? So to cut a long story short, we heard this a few times, and then we heard a really low growl, and it was kind of growl that would come from, I wouldn't say it was a tiger-sized animal, but it was definitely an animal which was a heck of a lot bigger than a cat or a dog. And it was a low, deep growl, and one of our guys ran into the brush to see if he could see anything, and apparently he described seeing an animal that was, I think it was about 6 foot in length and black. So potentially we could have encountered a puma, but it's really hard to say whether there's a supernatural element to what we encountered or not. And this was my first experience at Cannock Chase. So immediately I knew after this second visit that I was dealing with something that was a lot different to Sutton Park. And yeah, I mean, I'm not taking anything away from Sutton Park. It is a really paranormal hotspot. It's got an original Roman road. It's got the whole history of, I think it's Henry VIII, had a hunting lodge there. His ghost has been seen at some part, so I'm not taking anything away from there, but this felt that I was entering a quite dangerous place. I wouldn't walk in Cannock Chase by myself at night. It's the kind of place I just wouldn't want to go at night, because it feels like it's whatever's there is very real, and it's very dangerous. So yeah, that was my kind of first experience. Then we did return. I think it was a few years actually before we returned. So in 2018 we returned again to Cannock Chase, and this time I had a few bits and pieces of equipment. One of which was a fantastic night scope, which I use today. The only problem was I think this was about March 2018, and this would have been my first time of using this particular piece of equipment. And it was great to look through, but ultimately, when I tried to use it, when I saw something of real interest, I pressed the wrong buttons. So yeah, there was a small group of us. We headed down the same path, as I've said, and it was the same route all along. And as I was trying to get to grips with this night scope, and the thing about a night scope or anything that you look through is that you become detached from your surroundings, and you can actually be left behind, as I found on many investigation where I'm there. I'm so involved with what I'm looking at through the night scope that when I take it away from my eye, it's a little bit disorientating. But also, I kind of sometimes realise that the group I was with are way away, and for sure I was I was walking with them. Look from they were moving ahead anyway, and as I looked from my night scope, I thought I saw something. So I immediately put it back up to my eye, and I pressed the record button, and I was scanning around, and for sure there was something large moving along the tree line. And this photograph doesn't really do it justice, but it was sort of there. And it was kind of glowing white, and it was moving through the tree line. I thought this was like fantastic. I've captured something amazing, and I pressed record to record a video. Inevitably, what I actually did was just press to take a photograph. So I was there for about 3 or 4 minutes watching this thing walking along the tree line, but literally I'd just taken a photograph rather than video, and because it was so far away, I can pretty much rule out that it was a deer, because I could see the form. It was a human form. I wasn't entirely sure how big it was, but it was white, quite luminous, and it was moving through this forested area. So yeah, what I have learned since is that what I learned afterwards when I got used to using Nightscope is that if I'm taking a picture or taking a video of an object or an animal, it generally always comes up as a very well-defined black shape, and usually if it's looking at you, you get 2 eye shines off it. So I know for a fact that whatever this was, it wasn't. I could assume probably that it wasn't a living physical being. So yeah, this was a really bizarre photograph, and we did actually go back a couple of weeks later, I think, and I kind of estimated the point of where it would be and how tall it would be, and I think I kind of worked it out as about 7 to 8 foot tall. But I still don't know what it was, and like I said, this isn't a great picture anyway. It just looks like a bush, to be honest, but for sure, my hand on my heart, I can only say what I saw that night, that I saw something glowing white and moving along the forest line. So yeah, in this picture, this and I worked out where I was. In this picture, I think this was my line of view, so it's quite a distance away from where I was. I can't think how many meters I measured this at, actually, but it's a fair old distance anyway. And I saw this thing and it was moving sort of that way. Let's just have a look, see if I've got another picture of it. Yeah, and then this would have been from that angle. So it's it looks a lot flatter than it is, and whatever it was moving down there. I'm pretty sure it wasn't a person, because a person would have showed up as a dark shape. And it just makes this area so much more bizarre. Whatever I saw wasn't necessarily human, but it was moving in a humanoid way. It was moving in a bipedal way. It was walking across the front of that forest, and as I was here, the rest of my group had disappeared about 100 meters down a path, maybe about 75 meters, but they were just carrying on while I was stood here viewing this area there, and it was definitely one of the more incredible moments that I've ever experienced. Again, this is a picture, so. And honestly, I believe since I've used the nightscope since, that for definite this wasn't a human bipedal figure. It was something otherworldly. I think even if it was something like a Bigfoot, it would surely show up as a dark mass. I've seen other programs where they've had these Bigfoot type encounters and they've got the thermal imaging and it does show up as a thermal image. So you'd have to imagine that if it's a form that can take a solid form, then it would show up on my nightscope as a black figure moving with maybe eye shine perhaps. But it didn't. It was just this white, really strange figure. Like I said, about a week later, we went back. I think a week or 2 weeks later, we went back and we reviewed. We kind of estimated that whatever it was would have probably been about 7-8 foot tall. So now, like 6 years on, and I look at this picture, and I have shared this picture quite a bit, but I can't say that everything logical about my nightscope would say that if this was a person or a living being, it should have been like a black mass. It should have had a black form, and it was walking like a person, but it just wasn't. It just didn't fit what my nightscope should be picking up. It shouldn't be a white figure. My nightscope does pick up eye shine, but this should have been a black figure. My nightscope, that is. So a couple of weeks later, when we did go back, we did take this path and we walked across and through the forest and back down. And the trees, it's a completely different landscape actually. I've noticed one thing about Cannock Chase is that depending on where you go, it can be a completely different landscape. And this felt really untouched, this area. I'm not sure. A lot of it seemed quite impassable. But it was fascinating to walk at the back of where we'd previously investigated. Again, this is just another route. Right away, you could probably walk through there. So, but you can imagine that if it was an animal up there or anything that was out of the ordinary, it'd be so easy to hide in this whole area. It could almost be stood. It could almost be stood a meter away from you, and you might not see it, whatever it is. And again, this was part of a route that we were taking to get back, and as you can see, it's crazy the way these trees are just falling across, and you have to negotiate all of this path to get down there. For a daytime investigation, it's fantastic. I imagine at night it could be a bit perilous trying to negotiate all of this. Hi guys, well, sorry about that. I've really had to go back and add this extra bit of video. What happened was I was in the middle of editing, and for some reason I lost the last bit of the video. So essentially this video was literally to lay the foundations, if you like, about why I investigate Cannock Chase, what it means to me, and why I keep going back there. And I don't want to drive you mad with loads of these different videos of me talking about past investigations. There'll be a few more. I'll try and squeeze maybe several investigations into the one video. But it'll give you an idea of where I'm going and what we found. Some things I can't talk about because they're still in the process of being researched and investigated, and that intellectual information is with other people. So that's their intellectual information, and it would be like horrendous of me to take that and throw it onto YouTube, because that's, you know, that is their research essentially. And yeah, so in the future I want to come back with some more recorded live videos. I do have a couple that I want to post, but I need to actually watch them live, and I like doing that because it means that I can react to what I'm watching for the first time, as I would do if I was just watching an investigation on the internet from somebody else. And the reason why I do it like that is because when I'm out investigating and I've got the camera rolling, I don't generally like to talk. I don't feel that it's necessary for me to narrate everything about where I am. I could talk on video, but what would happen is if there was something happening in the background, it's very likely that I would miss it, and that'd be a shame because I'd just be talking over it. So I wouldn't want to be reacting to a video of me reacting to a live investigation and talking and everything. That's why I do it the way I do it. I do talk on investigations. I do have a chat with people, but I don't like to talk when I'm so close to the microphone on the webcam, on my hand cam, night cam, because it's I'm as loud as anything in the whole damn forest when I'm talking so close to my microphone. Yes, so well, I really hope you enjoyed this video anyway, and I hope it gives you a better understanding of why I'm doing what I'm doing. I don't really like to see myself on camera too much because I feel a bit awkward on camera, but this is the only way I can get these kinds of stuff out to you. I mean, I don't like the way I look, I don't like the way I sound. I don't think there's many people who do. And yeah, I've got to apologise as well because earlier on today I had really, over the last couple of years, I've had really bad hay fever, and it affects my chest, my throat, and my nose as well. And I'm a little bit better now because the day's gone on a bit, and I've been spraying some nasal stuff up me conch, I should say, and it's made a bit of a difference, and I feel a bit more lucid and clear. If I do sound a bit croaky and old, then that's because I pretty much am. So anyway, I will see you on the next video, and have a great day, have a great week, and hopefully you'll kind of find something of interest on my channel to watch. I'm assuming it's pretty much unlike any other paranormal channel really, where you get lots of really interesting live stuff, but on my channel you get to watch me wearing brown against a beige background. I look like something from the 1970s. So that said, thank you, good night, and have a great week.